When thinking up solutions within the social domain, it only seems natural to take a human-centered design approach. But what exactly is a human-centered design approach?
Human-centered design is a creative approach to problem solving, one that starts with people and ends with innovative solutions tailored to meet their needs. When you understand the people you're trying to reach and then design from their perspective, not only will you arrive at unexpected answers, but you'll come up with ideas that they'll embrace. Human-centered design is both how you think and what you do with it.
Well, in 2001, a guy named McGuire already made a big framework of all the tools and all the things you could do, all the techniques you could use within a design process to make it human-centered. And a lot of what you see in the schedule still actually holds value, but it has been added on, of course. Human-centered design has become a container for many things, and terms that you hear a lot, for instance, are user-centered design, participatory design, or inclusive design. So what is the difference exactly? Well, user-centered design puts the user in the center, obviously, right? Now, participatory design, that is more about the way you do things. So you actually make stakeholders around this project participate in your design process. And there's many techniques and tools to do this. And inclusive design doesn't say so much anything about the method, but it says more about the aim. You're making products, you're thinking up ideas and solutions that will actually make the vulnerable groups in our society be included in our society. One of the most prominent methods nowadays is design thinking. Now there's many different models and many different gurus, but they all say, okay, so what we need to do is we need to combine the needs of the people with the possibilities that technology offers us, and of course also the requirements for a business success, because we do want something that is viable. Two organizations have a very nice toolkit for design thinking. One of them is IDEO and the other one is Innovis in Belgium. Now Innovis says there's basically 4 phases in your design process. There's the problem definition, which takes a lot of effort to really get to the bottom of the problem. Then of course there's the idea generation, where you've got all the constraints and all the information and your design brief. Okay, then you have to think up the ideas. Next is the idea selection. Okay, if you have all these ideas, how do you select the best one, and how do you know that that is the right way to choose? And then you have the idea communication, where you present what you've been doing. So Innovis made this nice toolkit, which is basically an open database, and they have many cards with methods on it, with techniques on it that can inspire you to keep the creative process going. IDEO puts it slightly different. They say, okay, first you have the discovery stage, and there you need to understand the challenge and do the research and get inspired. And next you need to interpret those things. So by storytelling you try to find meaning and you want to frame opportunities. Next you get the ideation, where indeed generating ideas is the central theme. And you generate those ideas on whole solutions, but also on details. You go further and further into those details. The way to do that is to go into the experimentation phase, where you prototype things. You make a prototype, you test it on real users and with the stakeholders, and that will give you an idea of what to improve. You make a new prototype and you retest it. In that generative way, you get to a better and better end result. And then you need to present it. This is the evolution phase. So that's about engaging others into your idea and presenting it to stakeholders and make sure everybody is on board. So what are the advantages of using a method such as Innovis or IDEO? Well, for instance, it can improve your collaboration with your client, with the users, and with everybody else that is involved. Secondary target groups, companies who have to make it, umbrella organizations within the social domain, all sorts of partners like that. So you're engaging those stakeholders. And the nice thing about these toolkits is that they give you more confidence, more creative confidence. So you know, okay, so now we're here in the process, and next I also know what steps I'm going to take. And it's a very nice way sometimes when you get stuck within your creative process to get unstuck. Within community service engineering, we use the IDEO method as a blueprint for the format for socially ingenious, as you can see here. So what do you do with them exactly? Well, what you want is to get towards participatory design. So you want people involved. Now here you see a big list of all sorts of techniques that you can use, which are actually very good at involving the user within your design process. These come from a book, The Universal Methods of Design, which is written by Martins and Hennington. So if we have all these different methods, how do we choose? Well, that is really the question, isn't it? Because there's a lot out there, so whatever would be best to use. It kind of depends. It depends on your project. It also depends on how easily you have access to your target group and to the stakeholders. It depends on the time that your stakeholders have for this. For instance, your client, whether he wants to really participate with you, and you can almost do this scrum type of working where you sit together in a room for a week until you have a big result and then you go on to the next stage. But it can also be that the client says, no, this is your job, see you when you have results. Then if you have your stakeholder group who's going to participate in your design process, you need to find out, okay, so who am I going to use when? You don't gather this group so they can give you the solution and you just have to sit there. You have to get information out of them that you can use to make your design decisions with arguments behind it. So you can say, okay, this is a good decision because I saw in my testing that this and this happened. So that takes a bit of scheming and of directing the process in that sense. So if you want some tips and tricks on how to do that, my first tip would be do not ask the solution directly. Okay, so what actually do you need? You're not going to get the answer. Do it indirectly. Second tip would be to zoom out every now and then. When you're looking at details and everybody is seeing something different, you need to be the one to go up this level higher and see, okay, what's going on and what is the true need behind this. So zoom out and take the time to reflect. If you've made a project plan and you want to do it a certain way, but you notice that things are not going into the right direction or in the direction that you thought they would go, reflect on it. Is this a bad thing? Do I need to steer the process, or is it okay? And is this a surprise, but it's actually a good thing? To make careful interpretations of the results and the output that you get from your stakeholders. And my last tip would be, do look into the more creative techniques that these toolkits hold. Especially when you have vulnerable groups in your target group and you want to work with them, it's very important to give them a safe surrounding, and creative sort of almost games in that sense are fun for them as well as for you. So despite what will come out of this session, the session itself will already be a good experience, and that is very important. So if we summarize, user-centered design is about focusing on the user, so you know for sure that his needs and requirements are actually in your product or solution in the end. Human-centered design is broader, is wider than that. That is including all the stakeholders. And participatory design is actually making the stakeholders participate in your design process. But while you do that, you have to remember that you're the designer, and eventually all the input you get from your stakeholders needs to be interpreted by you, and you need to find out what the real needs are behind what people tell you. Choosing techniques can seem like a random choice, but it is not. And if you get into the techniques a little, you'll still find out what your project needs and what actually your preferences are. And you'll need to dig deep and kill your own darlings to get to that really good, innovative solution that you're looking for. Good luck.